All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, evening, and good afternoon, and good evening from uh, uh, actually to each of you joining us from different parts of the world. This is Arash Agajani. I'm a Microsoft MVP and community leader. Uh, Actually, we have lineup five. Let me go to the next slide. We have lineup 5 session with 5 amazing speakers for August. So 4 session left for the August. Today we have special guest Bülent, and he will talk about the Copilot Studio. So we will learn a lot about the Copilot Studio from Bülent. So actually, the other session we have is around the how we can create a budget management system using the Power Apps. We have this session with Debolina in the next week, so please join us for the next week and also the upcoming events and session in this month. So you will get lots of things, and you will learn more from the community and our speakers that they prepare something great and useful for you. So actually, before adding Bülent to our stage, I'm going to introduce a little bit about the Microsoft Learn community. So the Microsoft Learn community offers various ways of learners to connect with peers and experts to enhance their expertise and achieve career goals. It includes the Microsoft Learn hub for update and discussion, and learning room for direct engagement on a specific topic. Access the community through the provided link for more information and to join. So you can use the aka.ms/learning rooms to find the several learning rooms that we have in the Microsoft Learn community, and you can join one of them or several of the learning room based on your interest, and the technology that they provide information, and they will learn anything, everything about the technology to you. So the Power Platform Learner to Leader is one of the Microsoft Learn learning rooms, which has more than 2,000 members. We are sharing the latest information about Power Platform in our learning room, and also conduct this series of sessions for Power Platform enthusiasts. So if you are not a member of our tech community, join through this link, aka.ms. Let me put the link here, aka.ms/join PPLTL, Power Platform Learner to Leader. Okay, so and we have a code of conduct slide here. Microsoft aims to empower everyone globally through knowledge sharing and event, ensuring a respectful and inclusive environment for all. Harassment or disregarding behavior is not tolerated, and everyone is responsible for upholding these standards. The code of conduct encourages awareness, friendliness, and respect, openness, understanding, and kindness. Okay, so before we begin, a few important notes here. If you have any question during the presentation, feel free to type them in the chat box. We will have a dedicated Q&A session around 5 to 10 minutes towards at the end. And this session is being recorded for those who couldn't join us live, and will be available shortly in Power Platform Learner to Leader YouTube channel. So without any delay, I'm going to hand it over to our special speaker, Bülent. Hello.
Aloha.
And welcome to our today's session, Bülent. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, and thank you for having me today here.
Okay, awesome. So a stage is on yours, and you can start your presentation by introducing yourself. We can't wait to learn more about the Copilot Studio. We had several sessions about the Copilot Studio. I'm sure that this one will be different than the others, and we will learn a lot of things from you today.
Thank you very much. I think you will tell me at the end more if it's different or not. So first of all, hi everyone, aloha, welcome to this session. I'm really, really happy and excited at the same time. It's a beautiful day outside at 6 p.m. here in Germany, sunny. And yeah, I would say let's start and let's see what we can just, fill in into that kind of session. So first of all, let me introduce myself, a little bit about myself. So I'm based in Germany, in Hanover. So that's in the north of Germany. If you don't know about that, no problem. It's a smaller city, so it's more close to Hamburg. I've been born in Germany, raised in Germany, but I have not maybe a German name. So the one other maybe just ask yourself in that case. So because my origin is Turkish, my parents come from Turkey, came here to Germany, but just born here, and I decided to stay here in that case. um, what is also important about to know about me is I'm an MCT, so Microsoft Certified Trainer. So you're in good hands today, I would say, since 2021, and I'm very proud of that as well. In my company where I'm working, this is Evanate, and I'm working in Evanate since over 13 years now. Newly now as a global business application portfolio lead. So I mean, I'm dealing with Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, coordinating trainings and upskill, cross-skill our people, and it's absolutely joy just to do this. And last but not least, if you haven't heard about me previously, oh, no wonder, because I started more or less to contribute in the community this year, beginning this year, thanks to special people at Evernet, amongst others, Angelique Pazzuao, Heidi Jordan, Ambesh Singh, Jürgen Schlado, etc. Because these people are, have encouraged me. You should, do that kind of nonsense, not only at Avanar, but outside in the community as well. So I started then to speak as well, as you can see and hear today, and I also started with blogging. And you can see that blogging here on the right side, I've just called it that Aloha guy. And if you ask myself why I'm just saying that, because I had a wonderful honeymoon. I just came back a couple years ago and started saying, greeting everyone here in Germany with Aloha. The people thought I'm nuts, but I think this is the most relaxing moment. I guess I'm the most relaxed German, if you can ask me. So in that case. I'm very active in LinkedIn. I have also a YouTube channel. If you just look at this, you will not see so much of videos, but I'm active on LinkedIn, I can tell you. So, but I'm writing a lot of blog posts, I can already tell you. Good. So more or less, let's have a small agenda about what you can expect from today's session. So first of all, let's have a very short overview about what is Copilot Studio. The most important parts are chapter 2 and chapter 3. How can I develop my own custom Copilot? So I will give you some kind of guidelines which just helps you to decide what is the best way to do. And we will have also some use cases because it's one of the most asked questions, for what I can use Copilot Studio. And I've also brought you a little demo so we can also see in the system how this all works. On the right side, you will see then questions, which also comes and also should be discussed as well. There is beside Copilot Studio also a tool which is called Azure AI Studio, which we should have a little comparison. So what tools should you use in which situation? And then one of the things you mostly don't hear in any kind of Microsoft sessions is, challenges and limitations. So I'm also here and want to also make you a little bit aware about that. And last but not least, before the Q&A, the $1 million question: what does it cost me? The licenses question. It's not my favorite topic, but I know a few people love to discuss about that, and clients really want to know about, what does it cost me? So I give you some kind of input here when only a base guideline. But let's see. What is Copilot Studio? So here's some text: marketing, blah, blah, blah. Now let me summarize it, everything. So Copilot Studio is not really new on the market. It has only been rebranded last year. Previously introduced by Microsoft in 2019, it was called Power Virtual Agents and was a chatbot. And a chatbot where you can place very easily into a website or into Teams or wherever you want to put it, and then you could use it as another additional communication channel. Now, Copilot Studio is a little bit differently. Microsoft is not really talking about chatbots anymore. They're just only talking about Copilot. The difference is now it is more or less a chatbot with generative AI features now added to this. And the second feature, main feature, if you just ask me, it is now much more simplified to build such kind of a copilot it was before. So previously with PVA, it was some kind of, you need to put a lot of effort into this. Microsoft give us possibilities that these things are getting more and more simplified. But we will see that when we just hit to the demo. There's a lot of things which can also be added. So it has a really nice graphical user interface. So if you have no idea of coding and that kind of stuff, you can click your first Copilot together. There's also some kind of lessons Copilots there, which you can just learn, or lessons topic there, easy to learn. The connectivity is one of the most biggest advantages in the Power Platform. With over 1,000 of connections, you can just easily connect, for example, with Power Automate, and then you can connect to other systems and get information out of that. Multi-channel is also a topic. You can deploy that to several channels. I mentioned already Teams, your own website, into a Power Page, etc. Telemetry analytics is important. You want to know how successful your Copilot is. In that case, it just gives you some kind of analytics where you can decide if you have to improve your Copilot or not. You have an easy way of controlling everything. And last but not least, this is Microsoft responsible AI principles, which are just added in that case. And that you're not doing any kind of nonsense, my friends. Your Microsoft is just watching over you. Now, let's start it this way. So in that case, if you decide, you just, for example, I'm a Dynamics guy. That means I have now a product as a client and have bought something which is called, for example, Copilot for Sales. And if I buy this, then I've used this, then sometimes I have that feeling of, is that all what it is? I'm getting some answers, but could it be a little bit more? Can I do more? And then we just call in the Dynamics environment about customizations, but Microsoft using more the terms like extending. So that means, can I somehow enrich my Copilot? If the answer is no, you can just go with the out of the box first party Copilot. This is the term what Microsoft is using in Dynamics. In M65, there's also other kind of terms they're just using, but we stay with that term in that case. So if you say, yes, I want now to extend my Copilot, the next thing you just ask yourself, so what is what I want to do? Is it so-called load text? So is it load text? That means if I only at the end want to provide generated text, if your answer is yes, you can go with Copilot Studio. If your answer is no, for example, you want to generate, for example, a picture or want to do some other services, Copilot Studio might not be the right tool. By the way, you can also generate text with Azure AI Studio as well. But the situation is today, we're just talking about Copilot Studio. That's why we're sticking here with that kind of things. So what you can do is you can create either and enrich and extend the first party Copilots, or you just can build your complete own custom Copilot. Talking about this, now let's have a look inside Copilot Studio. So you have seen Microsoft demos, they just come up and saying, these are the features, these are the great things, and so on. You're getting so many buzzwords, but you have still at the end of the session no idea what you want to do. So I'm just doing it differently. So I'm saying, let's have 3 levels. The first level is the actions. What can you do? I'm not talking about the features. The features are what comes next when you just know what you want to do. There's a second level, which is more a level 1B, where I'm just differentiate. I'm very nervous. I'm very sorry that it's just coming when the things are just coming up and down. Custom and first party copiles, and then I talk about the features. So first thing, what is the most important part is authoring and extending. So what you have seen in the previous slide. That means the custom copiles and the first party copiles. Let's start with the core custom copilots first. This is what was built in since years in Power Virtual Agents. Topics. What is a topic? A topic is a flow at the end. So you're just writing in a chat box, for example, you're greeting someone. You're a polite person. You're just greeting someone, obviously, hello. And this can be a trigger for a topic which is called greeting, for example. And then, your chatbot is being triggered, and then just go a conversational flow there. In that case, it just feeds you back and asks you, what do you want to do? How can I help you? And et cetera, et cetera. And based on other triggers, other topics can be triggered as well. So that was the previous way how we usually work with that. You can still work with that, but that was the previous way and has been enriched with so-called entities. An entity is, here we go. An entity is a place where you store information. For example, your first name, your last name, your age, in which city do you live, etc., etc. So that kind of information will be then saved during a conversation. So it will not be asked again. So you can ask again. So if you're building a Copilot, which shall absolutely annoy you to the max, you can just do this, but maybe you just don't want to ask information which have been known already. So you can save them in an entity. That was always a little bit annoying to build everything else. So then Microsoft just added some features before it has been rebranded to Copilot Studio, which is called the Copilot Builder. That means you ask Copilot what you want to do, what kind of a topic you want to build. And you said, yeah, I want to have that Copilot for that topic, for example, about I'm just asking information about you, maybe just want to provide you some information, where is the next ATM, for example. And then based on that information of that natural language you're just entering, he just built you that topic, and then you had less work to do, which is great. First step in doing less work. Then we do have also something which is called actions. So what is an action? With an action, I was able to connect to other systems. For example, I can build flows. So that would be Power Automate flows, for example. Or I can just connect with Dataverse. I can just use one of the connectors. I just use custom connectors or what was ever built in Skills. Personally, I've never used Skills, but I knew from some colleagues in my company, they have also used it in some projects as well. But these are the way how you can connect to other systems and get information which you just need in a conversation. So for example, some client asked, at the moment, what is with my incident, which I just created a few days ago? What is the current status? That information is not stored in Copilot Studio. This information is stored either in Dataverse or another system. So we can connect to another system and get that information and provide it directly in the chat. So answers, knowledge source. So I've just called it answers because previously it was called generative answers. It's still there if you just use it in that topic, but Microsoft is using more the new term knowledge source, which have been introduced to us in May. And this is what was previously there already, but only enriched by Dataverse and Fabric. So when you're using generative AI feature, you can just point to a source like a public website and then say, if someone's just asking me, for example, let's point to Microsoft Learn, as this was a topic, before we start this session here, and you just ask something about a certain certification. Let's say I'm interested in a Power Platform certification, like the PL200, the functional consultant certification. Then if you ask, can you just tell me more about this, or what is the right certification? And if you point to a public website, you're getting an answer back based on that. And it works cool. Not every time, but sometimes it gives you really good ideas. Maybe it's more sometimes, depending on to which you're just pointing. You also have the possibility to point to internal SharePoint sites as well. So this is, I don't know if it's the case at your place as well, but SharePoint is a fantastic place to put everything in, and you never find anything against if you have a messy structure in that case. So in Copilot Studio, this is the hope of some of our people in our company, finds that when you just type in specific things and all that kind of stuff. So, and files. So if you don't have any kind of a source, you can also upload a 3 megabyte Word file and then hope or wish for the best that you get also that kind of request. I'm saying that kind of words because I haven't used that feature really, because I'm mostly pointing to a public website or to SharePoint. Or what I'm also doing now with much joy, I'm pointing to Dataverse. currently not recommended to use that in a production environment because it's in preview, but it works really good so far and it's really a joy. So if you're using Dataverse, it's really recommended from my side to play with it around, and you will see that in the today's demo as well, why I recommend this. But of course, it's still in preview and you should not be used in production. But for me, in the cases, it really worked good so far. There's another thing. I think this will be a fantastic next big thing is Fabric. Fabric is already hype already. You can connect so many sources with Fabric, one node, and you're just getting, everything then back from there. But it's not available currently. I think it's still in private preview and only available to some testers. But hopefully it will be available, in public preview, so we can also have joy with this as well. So this is everything what you could do with custom Copilots. If I would now gone through the system and have to explain to you, maybe from a visualization, it would be much more clear, but 5 minutes to go, this can be tough. But let's have a look into first-party Copilots as well. There you don't have so many options with extending, and it really depends on what you want to extend. So usually you have actions. When you click, for example, for M65 for Copilot, and then you have a conversational, connectors, prompts, and flows. So you have prompting here, but to be honest, if you're using that topic, you have also prompting there. It's just quite good hidden, but you can just use it. What's interesting is that conversational part. That conversational part is more or less a topic which you can extend. For example, if you're using one Copilot in Dynamics 365 Sales, for example, then there's also Copilot. Then you can extend this topic then. But this extending does not work every time. For example, for Copilot for Sales, you only have the possibility to extend for connectors. You have no other chances to use any of these. So it really differs from product to product. So it's every time clear, but if using M65 Copilot, then in that case, you see that kind of options. The next action, which is important for us to understand, is understand and ground. So the whole Copilot thing, and previously also Power Virtual Agents, why this got be such a huge success is the so-called natural language understanding. You type in something into the chat and you're getting a good answer back because he understands you. I don't know if you remember the times, 2011, when that first voice message system just started, like with Siri and with Alexa and Google Now. We were all amazed. I was amazed about Siri. I was so disappointed when I just bought this iPhone 4S and just tried it out, and I needed to speak in a language so Siri understood me. Siri still doesn't understand me. We are enemies, I can already tell you. But it is like it is today. The natural language understanding works like a charm. It's really cool. And when you look in Copilot Studio, you have three things to consider about. The first thing is you have the standard natural language understanding model. This is built in out of the box. So if you buy a license for Copilot Studio, you can start right away. It's already good. But sometimes, in some situations, you need to extend that. Then it's getting complex and it's not necessary now for end users. You need someone with technical understanding behind. So because this one can only be added if you have access to Azure, the portal of Azure, and if you understand what you're just doing. I would not hold my hand into the fire that everyone understands what's happening in the Azure world, so especially not from the client side. So a custom Azure conversational language understanding model is sometimes needed, and I give you a use case so it's easier for you to understand. So you have entities. In that entity, you're storing one information. So let's say I'm living in Hanover, but I'm working in Hamburg, a different city. So maybe I have a flat there as well. And if there's a conversation like, where do you live? And I'm living in Hanover, but I also live in Hamburg as well because I have two places. I have two apartments. With a standard natural language model, you can't store this. There are ways how you can bypass that. You can just create another entity, a custom one, and then can, bypass this. But out of the box, it's not possible. Then you can extend that by a custom Azure CLU model. But the thing is that's not that simple, not end user friendly. You have to go to Azure, have to understand what you're just doing there. But I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's good for us to know that there's possibility that we can change that. The third one is GPT model. This is what we know. So the large language model we can just choose, which are also in Azure, which we can use. But out of the box, there's already something implemented which you can use. Previously, in that bracket, there was a term dynamic chaining that magically disappeared, and now you see only triggered by Copilot. Okay, that is something which is super weird for me, but okay, the dynamic chaining wording was nicer, but maybe not understood by everyone what it really do. But it's now called triggered by Copilot. I'm pretty sure it will change again. This is a hobby by Microsoft, changing all the time the names. So our brains are, staying fresh by memorizing all the new terms. And this is huge. This is, I think, have been asked in 5 years all the time, languages. So you could choose a Power Virtual Agent up to 8 languages, but you could never use 2 languages at the same time. And believe it or not, English is not the only language in this planet. There are hundreds of languages. And now finally, you can now select, not 100, unfortunately. I think it's over 30, 35 languages or more, maybe, but not so many. Now you can change the language in your Copilot. When you are, for example, in German, you can change to German. If you're now in Spain or in any kind in South America where you speak Spanish, then you can change it then to Spanish, etc., etc. I think it's great. Unfortunately, it's still not that good if you ask me, because if I I'm typing something in German, but the music I'm just searching is with English. That mix is still not working that quite good. Well, maybe with the GPT, it's already working good. This is there. We see some good results. Integrate is the next one I would like to discuss with you. This is more interesting for developers, right? So usually it's the tool for end users, but here it can become a little bit more complex. And you have to a little bit more skill in that area. So Power Automate is something you can just integrate easily. HTTP and connectors, it's not that super hard, but you can integrate that. So Microsoft Graph is, for example, also a topic which you can just integrate as well. And plugins, or actions called. The name is also changing as well, or plugin actions, or whatever it's known as well called. What is missing here is, because this has been added later, is prompts. But to be honest, prompts is not really a developer tool. It's easy. It's more functional. That's why I haven't added that. This is more the place where I say this is more developer area. People are just asking me, what shall I do as a developer? You see, it's also a little bit also divided into some functional and into some developer parts in that case. Governance secure is the next one. We can just overjump this. So this is still the same. It's not super extended. So obviously one of the most important one is authentication. So especially with knowledge source, usually if you're in a company and using, for example, SharePoint as a knowledge source, then obviously it should work out of the box. Unfortunately, at the moment, it doesn't. You need then manual authentication. I'm very happy to say we have now a lot of guides now in the internet, and I'm sharing every week also a Copilot Studio newsletter where we have more or less every time then someone who just have shown his or her own way how to integrate this. And this is needed to understand how this works. So this is good that we have this, because security, you don't maybe want to allow everyone to have access to it. Sharing options, how you can share, that Copilot stuff, web channel security, and allow list. So that kind of security features, which helps you a little bit to secure your Copilot. The orchestration part is an interesting part. So I have divided it into 2 parts. So the first part is, first of all, you have channels. So at the end, you want to deploy that into a channel like Teams or a website like PowerPage, for example, included, etc., etc. And sometimes a user maybe is not happy with you. Your Copilot is at the end, it doesn't know anything, and you need to hand off to a so-called agent. This is especially in customer service area, where you just hand over, for example, to an omni-channel or to any kind of system, ServiceNow or whatever is the system you want to hand over, where a live agent at the end waits. So Copilot try to do its best, but sometimes a user just wants to speak to a real agent, and in that case, with that handoff, you can also integrate this as well. Agents. Don't get confused. Agents. These are Copilot agents. I have a dedicated slide for this to explain this more, because this is the, let's say, the big bang Microsoft just have dropped during build. And that's why a dedicated slide to understand what's more, because it's the next huge thing if everything works as expected. Last but not least, the telemetry. We need to analyze how our Copilot is working. Is it working quite well or not? These are our options which we have. So we have a customer satisfaction score, from 1 to 5, where 1 is super bad. Please go away, make another job. It's definitely not the right thing what you're just doing here with deploying this Copilot Studio. With 5, you're in heaven. You definitely deserve a promotion. And everything else, you have engagement rate, resolution rate, escalation rate, abandonment rate. So these are the features coming from Power BI Agents, still available. Microsoft will bring in much more analytics feature in the future to give you more options about analyzing. Now, the next chapter is how should I develop my custom Copilot? And there's 3 things you need to.
Oh, Bülent, you are muted.
Okay, I'm back. For some reason, my computer decided, shut up. But you can hear me, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. So synchronous versus asynchronous. So you want to know if your Copilot shall answer you right away, or if you need a longer time just for the answer. Typical thing in the Power Platform as well, where you need to decide as well. So then the next thing is what you need to decide is deterministic or non-deterministic. So do you want to have the same answers every time? Then it's deterministic. Or are you allowing generative AI to do and take control over it? So this is something you need to consider as well. And last but not least, data shaping. So yes or no, do you have lots of data which you need to handle or not? This is becoming much more clear with this graphic. And this graphic, by the way, is not invented by me. It's invented by a colleague named Joy Kirkwood, who's working with me in the company. Fantastic colleague, very skilled. Hello, by the way. And I'm just taking her graphic because it's a fantastic way just to show that this is a guideline, what to use when. So in that case, for example, if it's asynchronously and if it's more deterministic and you have lots of data you want to shape, you can do this with Power Automate, then go with Power Automate. If it's, or you can also go then with a topic as well in that case. So if it's more synchronously instead of asynchronously, you can also look for a connector action, which is in a plugin, which gives you a faster response as Power Automate, because Power Automate is asynchronously. You don't know when you will get the result back of that. If it's different, where you say, no, it doesn't have to be deterministic and all that kind of stuff, it goes more into the direction of generative AI. So you leave more the control to generative AI. That was previously dynamic chaining. That's why I have still that in brackets, but it's now called triggered by Copilot. Now, I promised you this Copilot agent as a dedicated slide, which is now new. I see this Copilot as a baby, which is now growing up. So this is the first Copilot to day 1. It's not really a baby, but it behaves like a baby. You just type in something in the chat, and it's super fun what you sometimes get. Sometimes you get some good answers. You're asking your child, are you hungry? The child or the baby can answer back, yes, no, and so on, but it just maybe doesn't tell you the truth. It's the same with Copilot as well. That's why you have every time this thumbs up, thumbs down, it just asks you, is my answer correct? Please tell me, I want to get improved, So in the second version, my expectation is it's growing up, it becomes more what my expectation to Copilot are. A digital assistant, which is less dependent on you. It works less, with the things you just, I have to say Copilot now every time what I want, but some things shouldn't be done, or can be done automatically. So you see that in one example, which I just have on the right side. That's why this place is some kind of empty. How will be the Copilots look in the future? We don't know, but my expectation is we will grow. We are still in the beginning of this generative AI age. That's why what we already have is amazing, but to my opinion, it will get much more amazing. So now let's have what is Copilot agent or what the expectation is here. Sometimes you also heard that term agentification. So these Copilot agents will understand the context of a conversation and will also memorize all the answers you just give. So these Copilots will not only run in the one day in the chat, these can be longer running Copilots up to 1 year. And I will give you that in a use case, and that will be more clear for you to understand what it is. But if it's running longer, how bad would it be if you're asking every time the same things? You would be annoyed as a user. So it will now memorize all that thing and will not ask you these things right back, which is good. Then the planning part. So, or it have an own built-in orchestrator. That means it will not ask every single step, what shall I do next? It will act more independently. You still can look into what it is. There will be a history, but in the end, it will be more becoming a real digital assistant. And of course, you can extend that and automate that by plugins, connectors, and Power Automate. So that kind of features will still remain, so you can still make it great, make Copilots greater again. Right, so use cases and demo. In that case, there's a colleague who just brought in fantastic use cases. That example, I didn't put that into the slides. I just asked that nice colleague yesterday. So let me just automatically go in here. And so I'm already apologizing if you have pronounced your name not correctly. Priyanjan, thank you very much for allowing me to show you your amazing use cases in that case. So let me just make this bigger. This link, I can also share that with you later, but it's also shared in, I think, the latest edition or the 8th edition of the Copilot Studio newsletter, because people are just asking me, what can I do with Copilot Studio? What are the use cases? So Microsoft presents since months more or less the same use cases, and then our colleague just have provided. So for example, a farming assistant Copilot, which is great. So let me just go to the next slide, because it has every time a visualization, which makes sense. So in that case, let's assume you have a Power Page and you have embedded Copilots there. So if you're a farmer, for example, you maybe are interested in how is the weather? Is there good weather conditions? So if a hurricane just coming in, that maybe would not be a good time, maybe just to go out and just do your work. Maybe not. But you can check and connect them with weather.com or whatever your favorite weather site would be. You can also go to a farming, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, for example, and have maybe that kind of question: Can I do this? Is this prevented now for whatever reasons? And you can connect to other sources as well. And then you would have a cool thing with Copilot Studio connected to that 3 knowledge sources, and you can build this within a couple of hours. It's not really a huge thing just to build this. So that would be one use case I want to have provided to you. Or maybe in that case, a project assistant Copilot in that case. This is also built in. So for example, someone is just starting new, you can embed that Copilot in SharePoint, and you can connect it to a SharePoint source where this kind of project documentation is hosted. So someone is starting on a new project, and instead of using your time explaining that to that one person again and again and again, because this is just time you can just save. And you can say, use Copilot if you have any questions, and if nothing good come out of that, you can just come then to us and ask us the question. By the way, there's also an idea in our area, like using Copilot for trainings, for example, and our Copilot Studio for trainings. For example, if it's an hackathon, and you can just all that frequently asked questions, put it in, and you can ask Copilot in that case. That would be also some kind of a use case. There's much more great use cases. I'm just looking at the time. That's why I'm just overjumping that. We provide this link in the chat, and then later, obviously, this will be becoming more interesting if you just wanted to. Great thing. So, but now, today's demo, because I brought you something. So what I built or tried to build is a Copilot with Copilot agent features without Copilot agent. So I wanted to see what kind of effort I need to put in. I regret my decision because I just saw that, that project, which I saw maybe 3 days, become bigger and bigger and bigger. And at the end, I just have more or less a little tiny use case, but you will see how much time you have to spend and how much my hope is, how much time Copilot agent will save you. So today's session would be a typical HR onboarding system. So usually you start in a company, could be a consulting company, and then you have an onboarding week. So there's someone just telling you, go to this place, learn this, these are our policies, etc. Then usually you're not staffed on a project. You have the chance to go on some kind and do some trainings. And then when you're starting a project, ideally after this once, sometimes you sit longer, but sometimes, you have the luck and can right away start away, then there would be some checks, and this Copilot agent assistant, checks with you. There's no human interaction needed. So this checks with you, send you an email. Are you feeling good? I feel confident. Don't forget to send your feedback to everyone so you can collect them. Everyone just knows what it is. Because in my past, it happened. It doesn't happen anymore, but this is really when I talk about past, several years ago. As I said, I started with M&A over 13 years ago. Some people were just forgotten because you have so much to do. It doesn't happen anymore because we have now good technologies. But how bad is it? Even I was forgotten. People in the south area of Germany didn't know that I exist. Once they just found me in a project, they said, "How could you oversee you?" Because I'm not living in the area. I'm living in the north. And then I'm a great addition. This is this can happen, unfortunately. But with Copilot agents, this can be avoided. So this Copilot agent is checking, as I said, this is a long approach flow which is running, so up to 1 year, which is great. So enough talking. Let's go and let's have a quick look how the demo looks like, because I see time is always my enemy. Good. So what I've built, and let me just make this a little bit bigger because I'm an old man. So I've just built an HR onboarding demo, and let's say, let me reload this one, and hopefully the demo gods are with me. So Ulani, I'm totally into Hawaiian culture. That's why I have just called this Copilot Ulani. So let me say I'm saying no. It just asks you right away the questions, hey, welcome to the Aloha company. I'm your digital assistant. So here's your onboarding miles together. So in the first week, go Aloha, and then you just learn and familiarize with everything what is happening in our company. Our philosophy in the next weeks are there's still time to the next project, learn something. So, and then it's just ask you which describes your role best. I'm just choosing functional consultant because the rest I haven't filled with life. So I'm cheating in that case. So once I just do this, it just goes now to Dataverse, and it's using now prompting and just comes up with some ideas what I can learn. So it takes some time because it's a trial. And usually I would say some elevator music, but lucky for us, it already gave us some answers. So in that case, it just tells me, based on the provided data and what is fitting to your role, I suggest you to do the PL200. It even gives me a description, or the PL900 and something else. And I have even excluded out the onboarding. So which do you want to do? And if you now say, oh, I'm interested now in doing, for example, the PL900 because I'm new, you say this, etc., etc. So the flow is not working from here because there are several steps now missing, like, for example, sending you an email, with everything what you have agreed, setting now with Power Automate or with a plugin in the background in Dataverse, how this all works, etc., etc. So now let's have a little look in how this looks behind. So let's go into the topic, into the conversation start, because this is the interesting part, what's happening now. So we are starting in the very first beginning. So this, do you know Ulani? and then it just asks you, in that case, which role is describing you best. I say functional consultant, and based on that, you have conditions in that case in your Copilot Studio. So I've only filled this one out, and I hard-coded that. But the interesting part is that prompt. So let's have a look in this prompt. And this is the cool part with Dataverse, by the way. You can add now Dataverse as a source, by the way, the only one which you can just add in a prompt. You can't add, for example, a SharePoint. You can't add, for example, a public website. It's only as an input you can add this one. It just tells me now, oh, here's this one, data use. It's in preview because Dataverse is currently in preview. But I'm just telling a simple prompt and saying, search for all trainings where the training role is either empty or functional consultant, and summarize all trainings which you just find by name and description, and please exclude out what is called onboarding. In that case, I'm just getting these results you have just seen. So maybe what is interesting in that case is how the structure looks like. And I have described that quite well in my blog if you're interested to learn more about this, but we can quickly look into this as well. And if you're a solution architect and you're just looking at this and maybe you say, this is the greatest bullshit I've ever seen. Hey, is this really, a POC, a proof of concept, which I've just did? And believe me, it become much greater as it was planned. So I wanted to go to my apps in that case, and I just have a management app. And I just wanted to play this directly instead of going in here. So here we go. Because this with this app, it's some kind of how I can add data into the system. So in that case, trainings as an example. So you can see I have also projects there, I have also compliance there, where you can add additional things, and then you can just add that to the employee's transcript at the end. So these are the things which I just added. For the Power Platform 200 or PL200, I just have created that kind of a construct, simple data worth magic here in that case, the name, what kind of a role, the description, how long it take. Start date and end date is in a template, not that interesting, but would be interesting later if you just put it in here. So the idea is, at the end, you have a list of employees. I have just added myself as a functional consultant. Let's have a look. So every time now a new employment would be just created for you out of the box. And then it just adds you at the end. If you select PL200 automatically with Power Automate, then this one is setting up. And every time Copilot agent can check if one of these things are filled. For example, if the project is been empty, but also training is empty as well, Copilot agent could suggest you, well, use your time wisely, right? You're not in the project. Why not doing some trainings? I suggest you some. So this is much better as I'm sitting every week with someone who just take it as a task and from the bench and saying this, because these things can be automated. So this is just a little insight of how you can do this. I can tell you, I just needed much more as 3 days to put this all together, but alone just to think about that Dataverse, the database stuff, took me this one. And this is a simplified thing, to be very honest. So these, what happens if I have 2 projects at the same time? It's reality, it can happen, or maybe 5. Or my favorite was I was somewhere in my first 10 years also in 6 mini projects at the same time. Obviously, with a lookup, that's not the right way to go. You have to maybe to consider that kind of requirement. But then it's getting complex. I just wanted to have a POC to visualize what is just possible. What is now interesting in all that kind of stuff is the following. Let me just go back and let me just make the screen as small as possible. So this is not possible with this one. Now I just have to go in the browser as small as possible. So look at this. This one is a topic which I just have used. Could I have used generative AI? I could. But the thing with generative AI is you're not getting deterministic answers back. So if this is a requirement, you have to go like this. So this is what I only have for the functional consultant part. It just goes this way. And what What is missing are the power automate, what is missing are the plugins, etc. So it's much more work to do. Just imagine you have a Copilot agent who can take over this without any problem. That would be a complete time saver if it works like it is. Good. In that case, let me just jump back, because time is not my friend, as I said. Now let's quickly go to the Copilot Studio version, Azure AI Studio. We heard that in the very first beginning, you have the chance to say in which direction you want to go. So what speaks for Copilot Studio is you want to have a low-code experience, and especially low-code is the term. If you go with Azure AI Studio, it's pro-code. With Copilot Studio, it's no-code, low-code, but it turns really on the requirements quickly into a little bit more complicated. I have never seen a project where you have just only used that point and click features and added this. It mostly becomes interesting to clients when they see the very first demo and, oh yeah, we have ideas. And then mostly some kind of low-code magic comes in, which quickly can turn in, depending on the requirements, to a more complex scenario. Speed and low ongoing maintenance is important. That means clients always say after a certain time, dear system integrator, go away. I just want to do it on my own, maintain on my own. Good luck. Because it turns mostly out that it's not that easy to do, because on the client side, mostly the manpower just sometimes doesn't exist. Sometimes you also don't have an IT department to handle that. And the one chosen on the client side who has the fun to do this all will then find out, oh, that's much more work to my additional work, obviously. And if I want to use Microsoft services, and I'm completely in the Microsoft world, this is also a plus for Copilot Studio. Anything else which just goes over it. I want to have my own large language model. I want to train this. I want to do image generation. I want to integrate that in a much better ALM process and so on, with DevOps support and so on. This goes more into a complex scenario. Azure AI Studio is the better term. Again, it really depends on the use case, and I recommend everyone, analyze with the client in the very first beginning what the client wants. Then you find out very quickly if Copilot Studio is the right tool or not. Don't believe the hype. Just go in and do your work and figure out what the client really wants. Challenges and limitations. So these are the challenges which are documented on the Microsoft side. So for example, coders, you have, for example, if you type in messages, you have 800 requests per minute in Dataverse. If you have 1,000 people, you just answer in the right time, it might be that someone is just getting something like send failed. Not nice, but it's always with negotiation with Microsoft how we can improve the scalability to avoid that kind of scenario. There's also some app limits. So usually you have a web app or Teams app, and these other things, in a web app, for example, you can put in a lot of copilots. You don't have usually a limitation there, whereas in a Teams app, it would be 50, just for information. Or you have 1,000 copilots, and in a web app, it would be only 250, for example. So these are the things, if you discuss with the client, I really recommend there's a page from Microsoft, and maybe we can just send later this link as well in the chat. Then obviously it's good for you to know how it is. These are the official documentations. Now my things come on top. Additionally, new features. Be always aware about new features. New features do not work quite well, maybe. That is the case for Dataverse, for example, but knowledge sources, for example, sometimes do not work as expected. So in that case, new features also means new risks. But this is not just only applicable for Copilot Studio. This is more or less for every software, not only Microsoft. New features should always be considered as a risk. The good thing is Microsoft, says this is a preview, so that should already your warning level. Some features in preview you should definitely use in production, but always keep that in mind. And I just jumped in quickly to this security and performance. My personal experience, performance are the things which are really not looked during a project, looked mostly shortly before go live, when there's a UAT and client is testing that and says, hey, it's super lame, I can't work with that, or much worse, after go live. when you just brought this out and you didn't do a good UAT job to your client, and then the end users are using this and then find out that the performance, for example, is low. Security as well. If you just go with that in a website, you should be because maybe it's connected to Dataverse, for example, you should be very aware about what you get out. Maybe there's information should not be spread out to the internet. The $1 million question, the licensing question. I love that. So I make it very easy for you. I'm not going to the licensing guide. If I go to the licensing guide, I never know what it is. I look at the time. So this is also the last chapter of this. So what is important for you to know is you have per message volume. If you spend $200, you have 25,000 messages per month. I'm not like to use messages. I'm using coins because I'm a player, from Nintendo and so on. You use every time a coin or a token or whatever your favorite thing is. This is a good example here in that case. So if you're using a regular non-generative AI, every answer you're getting back consumes 1 coin. If you're using generative AI, it consumes 2 coins. So a user asks Copilot, hey, when is the stores opened? And Copilot replies you back, these are the opening stores, opening times. It's 1 build coin. If a user asks Copilot for store hours in an upcoming holiday, then using generative AI, it checks also when is holiday, and then these are 2 build coins in that case. So based on that, you can assume if you're using generative AI, you have to pay double the price. If you have 1,000 users using your system, or you assume, and you're using generative AI, then you can already multiply 1 message, 1,000 user, that would be already 2,000. And you have 25,000 messages. And I've only used this for 1 day. Now, on our planet, mostly a day is longer than 25 days. If you're living on some other planets, it might be different, but I can tell you, here, you can already calculate, maybe this will be not enough for the rest of the months. But this is, depending on the project, depending on the requirements, this has to be discussed with the client. What is your expectation? And based on that, client has to go into negotiation. What is the best model in that case? Good. 2 minutes left for Q&A. I don't know if there are any questions.
Any question? I'm not seeing any question here. Just thank you.
I can't hear at the moment. Is it me?
Yeah. Also, Piotr send this message to you. Bülent is Copilot Studio magician, and you must subscribe to his Copilot Studio newsletter. Yeah.
I can't hear at the moment. That's my problem, but it's okay.
And that's it. No question? No.
So I'm seeing at the chat at the end. I currently, Arash, I have not understand anything. You were muted to me.
I'm muted?
No, still muted. But can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm just reading the chat in that case. So tough licensing question. What would be the total price when using generative AI answers and using inside custom Azure Open AI instance? Really tough question. So when you're using generative answers, definitely it's 2 coins. And using inside custom Azure Open AI instance, I would assume it's the same price. So that means it will still go with the same model. But I haven't tried it out. Microsoft to rescue me in that case. So,
can you hear me, Bülent?
no, I still can't hear you.
Oh, really?
Why?
Oh, I don't.
But it's good that you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. Then obviously you can answer that.
Okay, Bülent, thank you so much. And for joining us today. So I learned a lot from you. I know that there are a lot of things that's around the Copilot Studio that you need more time, to actually
I could
us.
Yeah. So one next skill I just definitely have to learn.
Yeah.
All right. If there are no questions, it's already over time.
No.
Then thank you very much for watching. You can still reach me out on LinkedIn and just ask me any kind of question. We can hear Aresh and we can also hear Blue. Okay, then it's my headphones. I'm really sorry. That's good that others can hear you. That's good. Only my headphones are the evil one in that case. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Guys here like Petra and Ambesh, really cool. I know you already. You're cool guys. Let me just know. And it was a pleasure to be here. Aresh, unfortunately, couldn't hear any so, but I think thank you very much and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. See you next week, guys. Bye.